Jesus, who had not conquered hearts by sheer power, force, or his awesome majesty, today conquers hearts through the greatness of humility and the force of love. This, as writers like the Spaniard, the Venerable Louis of Granada once wrote, is seen in the response of the people, the Jews there in Jerusalem who welcomed Jesus. And it is something that each Christian should consider for his or her own spiritual life and for fighting the vanity of the world. As we recall, when they saw Jesus, the people grabbed their palms. They were waving them in sheer joy for seeing Jesus there at the entrance to the city. They laid down their palms. They also laid down their blankets for Jesus to walk over. Of course, he was riding on the donkey, but nonetheless, for him to ride over. They were singing praises. They were praying. And in these gestures that the people did, as Jesus walked along there, his little escort by the people, we see three kinds of virtues that are recommended to us when we go forth to meet our Lord who comes spiritually to our souls. And of course, this took place this morning or today as we processed in with our palms. But the first is the practice of prayer, which is symbolized by those who sang canticles and begged for salvation as Jesus processed in on the donkey. The second is the practice of the works of mercy, symbolized by those who cut the olive branches, because we know that the olive is the symbol of mercy. The third is the mortification of the flesh and the disdain for oneself, not in a bad way, that somehow we were created bad or that we're fundamentally bad, but that we have a disdain for an inordinate self-love of putting ourselves above everyone else and above God, which is symbolized by those who cast their garments, their blankets, their clothing on the ground for Jesus to walk over and to be trampled upon for the honor of Christ. Of these virtues, the first, which is prayer, is owed to God. The second, mercy, is owed to our neighbor. And the third, mortification, is owed to ourselves. Prayer, mortification, and mercy. These are the three. They remind us of how Lent began with prayer, almsgiving, and fasting. It's basically the same three. These are the three spiritual crosses which the Christian should always carry with him. When he rises in the morning and has commended himself to God, let him take up these crosses and spend the entire day in conscientious fulfillment of these obligations, having a devout heart towards God, towards our neighbor, and towards ourselves. Jesus humbled himself by riding in on a donkey. He did it out of sheer love. He knew what he was doing. He was coming into Jerusalem to be crucified, to die. He knew it. He knew they were out to murder him. Today they're singing his praises. Jesus, you are the Messiah, you are great, you are the Son of David, you are the King of Israel. And he knew that they would change. Their hearts were fickle. He knew that they were going to kill him and reject his message. Of course, some in the crowd were believers. The simple, devout, pious souls, the humble ones, believed. But the ones who should have known better, the ones who knew the law, the ones who knew the signs, the proud of heart, the arrogant, the ones who closed their hearts to God, he knew they were going to crucify him. And so today, Jesus doesn't come in floating above the ground with lightning rods, casting everyone aside. He comes in humility. And for you and for me, the least we can do is that when we get up in the morning, we should first of all commend ourselves to God, and then remember, as the spiritual writers tell us today, to take our prayer, to know that today, sometime, somebody is going to probably cross us, or is going to commit some kind of injustice against us, or is going to say something that's going to hurt our feelings, or do something against violating our person. Expect it. It's like we get up every day thinking that this isn't going to happen. Well, it's happened every day of my life. I don't know about yours. And so if we're looking for it, it's a lot easier to accept that when it does happen, Lord, I need to show mercy to this person. Of course, I can't let people cross my boundaries, and I have to stand up for what is right. But to know that if Jesus Christ can accept this and be merciful to these people, so can I. And then I must mortify myself. As the saints tell us, if one day goes by that we do not mortify ourselves, that day we lost a lot. We need to mortify ourselves at least once a day with something to keep our senses, our faculties in check. And so today we turn to the Sacred Heart of Jesus. We ask him to help us to be with him during Holy Week and during especially his Passion.